Hey everyone, hope you guys are doing well. Sorry for the delay on the stream, just not feeling too great today. So I just wanted to kind of keep it a little bit shorter than usual and hopefully just get the lineups for the Switzerland game, react to that, and possibly also any news on the France game and the predicted lineups there. I think the biggest news that we have confirmed so far is that Barcola should be starting. So I'm going to put that as a pinned message as well, but hopefully that's going to be helpful for people and the kind of decisions that they're making this week. I think I've got one regret in terms of some of the transfers I've made. I've already locked them in. I probably should have gone Chadley Riyad versus Canada. But I think, part of the reason why I guess I didn't do that is I ultimately felt I've got double Colombia defense anyways. And yeah, I guess the thinking behind that is just, if let's say, Morocco were to advance, it's still a pretty tough draw next round. Whereas honestly, from what I've kind of seen from Argentina, I kind of think if I use the clean sheet shield and delay it for next week, I feel like that Argentina-Colombia game could just be one team scoring one goal, and that could be the game. I could be wrong, of course. It could be a 2-1 or something like that, but I just feel like that could be quite a low-scoring game, whereas if I bring in, let's say, a Morocco player, yeah, maybe not the same sort of dividends there, but I do think Baena is mostly safe to start the next few games. The problem with him, of course, is it's kind of performance dependent. I mean, he's had some good games. He's had some bad games. His best game was the last match. So I think that's kind of why I've decided to switch into him. Hey, Benny, nice to see you, my friend. Quick one, Hakimi plus Barcola or Riyad plus Dembele? I'd probably actually punt Hakimi plus Barcola, to be honest. Is Baena safe to start? Yep. Sell Yamal or Kane if I have both. I'd probably still sell Yamal, to be honest, but I think selling Kane is fine as well. That is basically a 50-50 decision, so I'm glad you asked that question. Would you sell Vinny or Yamal if I'd have to? Probably I would still sell Yamal. Anish says, with Munoz, Laporte, Riyad, Dest, Lisandro Martinez, Emi Martinez. You probably shouldn't, because I think you've got a better keeper than most people in terms of pairs. Riyad has better clean sheet odds than most. Dest isn't ideal, but then, Lautaro Martinez is still quite good. I'm personally planning to use the clean sheet shield next round. I don't know. I mean, what do you guys think you're gonna do? You're not going to ruin Molina for me like you did with Konsa. I mean, I had Molina last round already, so I'm not sure what you mean by that. He was already ruined, if that makes sense. I mean, FPL Joe, nice to see you, my friend. Are you planning to use a clean sheet shield? I think Dean has not been confirmed, but I do think that he's very likely to start. So all the French newspapers that I've read through have suggested that he'll start. I don't think Yamal's numbers have been underwhelming, though, to be quite honest. I mean, he played a really good game last match out. I mean, I'm more someone who actually just believes in XGI, right? So if Yamal got really good XGI in a game versus Austria, then I think everything is fine, like business as usual. For example, Olise has scored, I don't think he scored a goal in this tournament, right? But I think Olise has been one of the best kind of players in terms of, if you're actually picking someone to just score a goal, I think I would put Olise right up there at the top. But the main difference is he's been getting a lot of assists for Mbappe. So, people see that as being production. But the way I see it is Olise is still absolutely incredible, even from a goal threat point of view, without just looking at the actual numbers. I think Yamal still is wonderful. Is Holland a bad start? I don't think so. I think the Brazil and Norway goal is expected to have a lot of goals. So I wouldn't be too worried about keeping Holland in my team. If it doesn't work out, Holland could still very well score. He might not qualify for the next round, but he's still going to be a good pick for this week. NCFC 8, is it good to play maximum captain this round? Probably not. I would save it for the last 2 rounds. We still have 3 rounds, right, after this. So I'm planning to use the clean sheet shield in the quarterfinal. And then in the semifinal and final, I'm probably going to use the maximum captainship. Will Medina start? I think it's likely. I don't think Doué is expected to start. Medina apparently just had a cramp at the end of the day. Sad, thank you so much. Sad Yassine. Got 12th man. Would you get Olise, Kane? Oh, you've got 12th man. Okay. Would you get Olise, Kane, or Cunha? I mean, one thing I would say is that if you can't you just 12th man a French player, like for example Barcola? Can't you, like, if you bring in Olise, for example, couldn't you just like 12th man Barcola? That's what I would do. I would actually just go for someone like Barcola on 12th man, as opposed to like Olise. To me, I would try to fit him in my team with my 4 free transfers. But if you can't do that, then fine, 12-man Olise, because I still think he's the better pick compared to Kane, compared to Cunha. Would you waste the transfer if you had Crepeau and Freeze? I wouldn't waste the transfer at all. Because you got to think about, there might be some circumstances where you never know. I mean, like this like, look, goalkeepers can get penalty saves. Goalkeepers can rack up a lot of saves. If you rack up enough saves as a goalkeeper, you might even get the scouting bonus anyways. So, you know, there is potential there to still get the points. Why didn't I even consider McAllister in the cheat sheet? Because he doesn't really do anything. I mean, I don't honestly rather Rodrigo de Paul. I just don't think McAllister has much. I'm not seeing anything from McAllister this tournament when it comes to, like, am I expecting anything with regards to, like, goal threat? Yeah, I mean, McAllister in the previous matches, he had 0.22 XGI. Even Rodrigo de Paul himself had like 0.63. Enzo Fernandez had 0.36. You know, with more XG, so more shots generally. I know McAllister had one of the assists, but it's just he's not that productive as a player anyway. So, I mean, you can pick DePaul, you can pick McAllister, you can pick Enzo, but I guess ultimately, I probably still think Enzo's like the best real goal threat. And then McAllister, he's had a lot of points so far this tournament, but I just can't really see him getting, I don't know, like, it is kind of just like a jammy assist or a tackle. That's kind of what you're looking for. And it might work out, to be fair, but he's more expensive than, let's say, DePaul. So I would probably actually punt on DePaul if I was actually using, or trying to get towards a player. Rabiot is also a really good pick on that basis as well, because if you think about it, yeah, please no all caps in the chat. I'm not going to respond to people who are kind of constantly spamming messages and kind of capsing all their messages. I don't think Llorente starts. I think Porro actually will start at this point. Why no Riyadh Morocco? As I said, I think Riyadh will play versus France next round. So the way that I kind of see it is that if let's say Riyadh plays versus France next round and I use the clean sheet shield, he probably still has an extremely high chance of conceding 2 goals. Whereas if I actually pick Mojica, I still think that they could actually keep Argentina to 1 goal, possibly. Is it okay to take a -3 hit? Of course it is. Riyadh or Mojica if you can only join one. I think both are fine. I would probably go Riyadh if I had the if I thought about it a little bit more deeply, I would have done it. Why not Mbappe captain? Yeah, it's a good question. I haven't fixed my captaincy yet. Best mid under 7.5 without Pulisic. I mean, Pulisic is no longer like one of the best options this week just because of, well, unfortunately, just like I would say Saibari. Saibari at 6.8 mil. I think he's probably the best pick. Confident Dean start. Yeah, I'm not going to clean sheet shield though. Riyadh is benched. Are you sure? Oh my god, really? Why though? I'm kind of confused. Why would it be official? Where are you even seeing the official lineups? Because I can't see them. By the way, I just want to shout out the fantasy tool, which is, you know, what I've been working with, for example, on Matchday 1 to identify some hidden gems. We're going to quickly show the product a little bit later and actually walk you through how that can actually help with your transfers and things like that. You've got Saibari as well. I'd probably say I don't think Vargas is necessarily worth a transfer, but I think you could go Rabiot or you could go Baena, possibly. Hakimi is incredible. The source of Barcola starting, I think Polymarket already posted it. Can't really see why they would have it from a sort of non-authoritative source. But most of the French newspapers are also predicting a Barcola start. They're basically expecting that only Tchouaméni is going to be the only change for this lineup in this match day. I think I was trying to answer a question, but I literally cannot remember for the life of me what it was. Any reason for why not backing Barcola if you're backing Dean? What do you mean? I already have quadruple France, so I've already got Dembele, Olise, Dean, Mbappe, and I would obviously pick Olise over Barcola. So how else can I back France? Yeah, Hakimi is going to be a massive differential. I would go Hakimi over Upamecano for sure. Sell Doué and Medina. I probably would sell Doué. I might not sell Medina. Thanks. You're transferring Vargas because you already have Munoz and you don't want to leave that doubt to the end. I mean, but the thing is, I guess, like, if you think about it, at the end, you probably have like 2 picks. Like, one of them could do well. I mean, that seems reasonably fair. Unless you're planning to get a lot of like great options. I mean, Pulisic, I just had the option to get someone with scouting bonus with a slightly better fixture than Pulisic. And I needed money to get into Elise from Bellingham. The reason why I've gone Mojica is just money. Why is Messi on bench? It's just date order. Try not to spam chat, guys. But I mean, if you guys have been playing this tournament, you know you sort your team out by date, right? So the Argentina-Colombia game is the last 2 games, so technically your bench should just be Argentina-Colombian players, if you have them. DS S70, ranked 230, awesome. Thanks to your great tips. Thank you, my friend. Hope you've enjoyed the content so far. Quinones or Pepe? I'd probably go Quinones. I have all my chips. What should I use? Forwards, the same as yours. Please help. Like all your chips? I'd probably actually just use the qualification booster chip right now. Why do you feel Portugal is easier a fixture than Belgium? I mean, why would it not be? I'm confused. USA and Belgium is like a 50-50 game. Spain are quite heavy favorites versus Portugal. I mean, even just watching the football in this tournament so far, like, I think Belgium have been bad, but I mean, Spain have finally put in some good performances, so can't really see why. Like, I wouldn't distrust thinking that Spain are going to be good for this match day, basically. There's pretty much no reason for me to. And that's not even, like, sort of my personal bias included. It's just, that's just the odds, right? For context, here are the progression odds for this match day. Sorry, let me just drag my team into the right spot. So this is the round of 8 progression odds, right? And it's probably quite useful for people who are, you know, planning to like use the qualification booster chip and things like that. But look, France, Argentina, obviously extremely favored. Then Morocco, Spain, Brazil, all kind of in a cluster right there. Then it's Colombia. So yeah, I mean, when you're asking the question like, why would I prefer having a Spanish pick compared to a USA pick? That's pretty much that, right? You get effectively 14% more chance of progressing from a player. I mean, I guess I could have, let's say, I could have shopped for Rodrigo de Paul, you know, for a higher chance of progression. But at the same time, I kind of think, is de Paul more likely to get like a goal and assist? Maybe, maybe not. I think he's more likely to get a clean sheet, certainly, than Baena. But maybe as an attacking player, much rather pick sort of an attacker than, you know, someone who's just playing center mid. Bono or Freeze? I think I prefer Bono this match day. My defense is 2 Colombia, 2 USA, 1 Argentina, 1 Morocco. I think that's good enough to use the clean sheet shield. Because, yeah, I mean, the more USA... The thing is, though, like, for example, for me, it's like I've got 2 USA, 2 Colombia as well. But it's very likely that I might not need to utilize them. Like, for example, if I can get clean sheets from Argentina and France, that's already 3 defenders in my team who would have gotten cleans. And then I think Colombia is better insurance, generally speaking, than the US. Is Riyad actually benched? Let me have a look at the lineups. Wow, he's actually benched. Okay. So that does mean that going for well, that does mean that going for some of the defender picks is going to be a little bit more expensive, right? Because how much is Carvajal? Oh, well, to be fair, you now literally have a Morocco defender at 3.5. So So that's even better for people who are looking for make-weight transfers like this tournament. I mean, that's pretty massive. Are you guys going to go there? I mean, I would definitely be shopping for Halal if you guys needed actually the like something to kind of sort you out in terms of money. I mean, you can't go Riyadh now. Thoughts on Ryan? I mean, he's a forward in the game, right? So I don't think it's ideal. Is Dean nailed? I can't say he's nailed, but I think he's very likely to start. The chatter about Medina is that he just got a calf injury last night. I don't think he had a calf injury, sorry, but I think he had a cramp, and I think he's fine. Hakimi is very good. I will regret not having Hakimi, but it is what it is. I mean, that's pretty big news to be honest. I'm kind of surprised Riyadh was benched. Like, I can't see a very clear reason for it, if that makes sense. So that is slightly confusing for sure. All right. UK Politics 1, reason for when you're using Clean Sheet Shield and why Dean? I mean, Dean is a scouting bonus French defender. So France had the highest clean sheet odds this week. So that's, for me, the justification to just simply go there. As to why I'm using the Clean Sheet Shield next week, I kind of just think, okay, you should really use the Clean Sheet Shield as a bailout card, right? So if I have a lot of players provisionally on my team who have good chance of getting clean sheets, I should probably just wait for next match day instead, where not many people have a good chance of keeping clean sheets. No Hakimi for off-field reasons. Wait, what? Is Hakimi not playing? No, what do you mean by no Hakimi for off-field? Oh, you mean like not going for Hakimi. Okay, yeah, I see what you mean. Sorry. Isn't Riyadh injured? I didn't actually know that. I didn't even know he got injured in the previous match. I mean, I was watching Netherlands-Morocco. I didn't actually realize he was like actually injured in that match. But he's always quite injury-prone, isn't he? I thought that I thought his substitution was actually just because of like cramp or something like that. I mean, it must have been so late at night that I've actually forgotten, to be honest. Don't forget clean sheet enables scouting bonus thresholds. Yeah, of course it does, but at the same time, like the players in my team that have scouting bonus, other than Mojica, are players who would have scouting bonus again next week, right? Like, hopefully one of my goalkeepers will advance, and that should work out quite well. And then I can still get scouting bonus from them next week. And yeah, Riyadh is on the bench. That's the thing too. I mean, Riyadh being on the bench. Oh, he's trained with the team since. That's the thing. I didn't think it was like a serious injury when he came off. So that's why I was a little bit confused about that. Lucas Hernandez might start over Dean. Well, I mean, it wouldn't be Lucas Hernandez. It would be Theo Hernandez. And I don't think it's likely to start. It seems like most of the French newspapers think Dean will play. Bro, I'm not so sure. Or Sabal or Olise to score more points. I would definitely pick Olise. Hey, Fran, I meant, do you think Dean is nailed? Yeah, I do think is nailed. The problem is though, like if he puts in one bad performance, of course he's gonna get ruined. And Anish, sorry, you put in the super chat as well. I apologize for not responding on time. But if Riyad gets benched, should I take a -3 for Hakimi? Yeah, I think that's worth it. I mean, I think it's worth it. What is my chip strategy? If you still have the 12th man, I'd probably use it now and just get a French attacker. And I'm planning to use the clean sheet shield in the quarterfinals, actually. Have I confirmed all my transfers? Yes, I have. Dean or Upamecano, I would go Dean. Any chip active? No. Any other options for Yamal? I mean, you can go any midfielder, right? Just like cheap center mids from like Argentina, from France. You can even go Baena as well. You could even go Tillman. Are you not picking any Morocco players because they will face France if they win? Yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, I don't think there's like, for me, if you think about all the transfers that I've made, technically, I guess Mojica should have probably been Hal at this point. But I just kind of felt like Colombia actually have a pretty good chance versus Argentina to keep a clean sheet in the next round. So because I wanted to delay the clean sheet shield, I've kind of, you know, decided to do that. I would probably go Dean over Hakimi. But I can understand, but that's more so because of tournament progression. Whereas I think with Hakimi, the big thing is that he's probably more likely to do better this match day. This is my first time playing a fantasy game on top 20k rank. Awesome, Peter. Well done. Are there any players, Connor says, who you say I must own this round? Have 2 free transfers? The problem is, I'd say Hakimi is a type of must-own player, even Saibari as well, but I don't think anyone's actually must-own, right? So, personally, I do think Olise, Dembele, Mbappe, and maybe a French defense. Like, I would say quadruple France is must-own. So, I would move my team towards quadruple France first. Max captain on who? I mean, max captain literally works so that you don't have to captain anybody, because that's the point of max captain. Olmo over Yamal to save funds. I don't really think it's that viable. I still think Yamal's a wonderful pick. I think people are overreacting way too much to like what's already happened in a lot of the games so far, as opposed to the threat that Yamal actually produces. Like if you kind of look at still a lot of odds, the XGI so far from Yamal in full games, like he's gonna do well. So I'm not too worried about Yamal. So for example, if I go on like any sort of bookies right now and look for anytime goal assist for Yamal, he's still going to be at the sort of same level as some of the other picks, you know, other than, let's say, the other premiums. So he is, I think, like sub 1-to-1. So still an amazing pick. And I really wouldn't, I had no want to kind of take Yamal out of my team. But part of that also is because I acknowledge that I have Oyarzabal over Kane, and other people have Kane and they want to keep Kane. Krishna, thank you so much for this chat. Question to chat as well. Will qualification booster work for all players in semis with third place? I don't think the qualification booster chip should work in the final round. Am I crazy? I mean, how can you qualify for another round if you're in the finals? So seems kind of pointless. I wouldn't use a qualification booster chip anyways in the finals, because more than likely the semifinals and the finals will have fixtures that are basically 50-50s, and so you're gonna have probably like at least 8 or 9 players from teams that would have, like, if you think about it, you've got 15 players. You probably would have like 8 to 9 players from teams that would advance if you get lucky. And the flip side of that is, you know, like 7 players or 6 players don't advance. And so you're already losing a lot of qualification booster points. So I would not save it for those rounds. Yeah, but at the same time, it's like, maybe I'm wrong, but it's just, it just seems rather pointless because there's no upside and it seems like a waste of the chip, because it might not work. How about not go Hakimi, but go Kukurea taking out Riyad? I still think Hakimi is better than Kukurea for this match day, Anish. But I will say, Kukurea, the advantage of that is if Spain do advance, then Kukurea has a much better fixture next week. So if you're doing that for, like, I guess, protection of like EV over the 2 games, then yeah, maybe Kukurea is just about better. Can you roll transfer between the rounds? Sorry, Farber, you actually can't, as far as I understand. Do the points from clean sheet shield trigger scouting bonus? Yes, they do. That is actually a very significant thing. It triggers scouting bonus and it also stacks on captaincy. So unlike the qualification booster, it actually does stack with other things. Why no players from Morocco? The kind of team structure that I ended up on ultimately meant that I wanted to get Elise in the team, and to get Elise in the team, I needed basically a sub 6 million midfielder. So to get a sub 6 million midfielder, I could only really go Baena or Rodrigo De Paul, and I've gone for Baena. And that's maybe Spanish bias, but I don't really mind that. I mean, De Paul at the end of the day is a center mid. And then the other pick was that I went for Mojica over Riyad, and that's purely because next round I plan on using the clean sheet shield, and I don't really want to have a Moroccan player in my team versus France. Why not Hakimi over Mojica? Well, price, obviously. Should I sell Jude or Pulisic to buy Barcola? I would probably still sell Pulisic because I think Jude still has a better chance of advancing. What ship am I using this game week? Nothing right now. Mojica or Halhal? I think I would just go Halhal, to be honest. If I had, because now that I'm thinking, like when I made the transfer, I thought Riyad was going to start. So if I knew that I have additional 0.4 million, I think I'd probably go Halhal. But the problem with Halhal too is like, I don't know if he's going to necessarily start the next match, right? So you need to think about that as well. Whereas like Mojica is definitely going to start the next match. Molina still starts. Yeah, I can't see why he wouldn't. Guys, imagine the Paraguayans send the French packing. I mean, that would change our team so much, but I would love it. I would love it. How many points did you take a hit for transfers? I didn't take a hit. When are you using max captain bonus? Probably the like semifinal or the finals. Why not clean sheet shield this week? I think the fixtures are tougher next week, so I think inherently it makes more sense to use the clean sheet shield next week. Transfers are done. Yes, that's correct. Would I sell Llorente if I still had him? Unfortunately I would. Yes. Hey, Fran, did you sell Munoz for Mojica? I did indeed. Any info on Medina? It seems like it was just a cramp. Scaloni said it was actually fine, so I think he should be fine, personally, for next match day. I think the problem with Tagliafico, though, is that it's still very likely that Tagliafico could still start that game. You never know. Barcola over Dean? Barcola over Dean is perfectly fine. I think that's a very good option. Do transfers carry over? They do not. Please try to not spam in chat, guys. But thank you guys so much for the support. All right, so now that we have lineups and things like that, let me just quickly check the Canadian lineup. Okay, so they benched Larin. Stakio starts. Still no start for... Oh, they started De Figueroa this time, as opposed to Cornelius. So they're still rotating their defense a bit. And Saibari looks great. I'll have Saibari in some other games, but that's fine. Yeah, looks like a great team for Morocco. I mean, I'd be super confident about Morocco personally. Was there Nations League Fantasy and did you play it? I don't think there was. And if there was, I didn't play it. Not sure if people know, but you can use 5 French with 12 man. That's exactly what I was trying to say. Like, if you had the opportunity to go like another additional French player, I would do it. Would you sell Manzambi to Baena? Don't have any other Spanish cover. I would actually probably just keep Manzambi. Unless you really have the room to make luxury transfers, then go for it. Medina's not injured. From what I understand, he's not injured. Yamal versus Dembele, I'd still go Dembele because the fixture's much nicer. Fran, would you have played clean sheet booster if you owned Halal instead of Mojica this round? No, I still probably would have saved it for next round because technically my team would be better for this round on paper if I had Halal. But yeah, because I want my team to be slightly better next week, comparatively speaking, I've gone for Mojica. This team is locked in. Yes, it is. Would you pay -3 to replace Konsa with Dean? I would actually consider it. Yes, yeah. I don't think that's a terrible idea. You were at the Congo England match. You're planning on getting rid of all my English players. Was it that disappointing though? I thought you guys were quite good in the second half. Or what are your overall thoughts about that? The team's locked in. Yes, that's correct. Try not to use caps in chat, please. Would you rather get Hakim or Dean? I would go Dean personally, still, because Dean on paper is still going to be a better pick for the quarterfinals, I guess, if you're thinking about France versus Morocco for the next round. Thanks, Lambi. Elise or Dembele, I would go Elise at this point in time. I know I keep yo-yoing it, but to be honest, I guess it's like both of them just keep like one-upping each other in terms of performances, like each match, and then I just think, okay. But yeah, I think Elise has probably had a more complete tournament. The XGI also backs that. Why don't I have any Moroccan? Well, I can only have 15 players in my team, so that's life. Tom, thank you so much for the super chat. Your defense is Crepeau, Koundé, Kukurea, Hakimi, Martinez, and Munoz on bench. Should I save for shield next round? Yeah, I think so, right? So because you've got Koundé, Hakimi have great chances of getting a clean sheet, probably better than myself, right? For example, like I've got Dest, worst clean sheet chances, Mahika, worst clean sheet chances. I would definitely save your clean sheet shield for next round, Tom. Thank you so much for the super chat. Is Halhal at 3.5 worth a shot? Definitely. Yeah, I mean, why is there Spain bias? What do you mean by that? Sorry. This is Dev or Dev. Thank you so much for joining as a member of the channel. Welcome to Captain, my friend. Molina injury update? I don't think he's injured. He just got subbed off early in that match. From what did he even get subbed off? I think Mojica's fine. Or do you mean Medina? I mean, Spain are one of the top 4 teams likely to progress to the next round. And as far as goalkeeper strategy, I think just hope for the best next round, and then actually just, maybe bring in, like, let's say, it's going to be difficult because even next round, I don't think there's going to be many clean sheets on offer. So just pick the best kind of scouting bonus goalkeeper that you can get for the next round, or possibly if you have enough money, like go towards an Argentina goalkeeper if you want to, or something like that. Technically though, Spain would probably, if Spain advanced, they have the best fixture for next round, so maybe you can go there. The projected XGI and clean sheet odds are not great for Spain, and they do have a tough fixture. But what are you comparing that to? Obviously, they have a tough fixture compared to Spain. Sorry, compared to like France and Argentina. But if you compare to the rest of the field, Spain is like a top 4 fixture. I don't think it's even 55-45 on Dean over Teo Hernandez. I don't really see many French news sources actually suggesting Dean wouldn't start. Why this confidence in Dean not being a rotation risk? Well, the thing is, the French media actually was the one that actually kind of confirmed that Dean was going to start in the previous match. And then since then, we haven't heard any news about, Teo Hernandez likely to start, for example, versus Paraguay. So if you see, for example, the tweet on June 28th from Canal Plus Foot, they actually suggested Dean was going to start. But there's been no kind of suggestions the other way around that Teo Hernandez is going to start. And at the same time, all the kind of predicted lineups that I've seen from French newspapers, including L'Equipe, have Dean starting. You like the Morocco defender at 3.5? Yeah, I think he's an absolutely great option at 3.5. You think Mexico will beat England after watching England play? Mexico at the Aztec is going to rattle an unstable English team. I mean, the odds are super close with Mexico-England. I mean, it's like 55-45, right? So that's not surprising. And obviously, if you looked at like a on paper matchup like Mexico versus England at the start of the tournament, you probably wouldn't even have thought it would be close, but it is now quite close. Quinones or Cunha? I probably would go Quinones just because scouting bonus. Your top 2,000 in the world, hoping for a great week. Awesome, congratulations. Is it worth to remove Cucurella for Dean? I don't think that's really worth it. But I probably would try to get towards a French player if you can. Like, even if you have to make a luxury transfer, I probably would do it. I just don't think Cucurella out is necessarily an ideal move. Saibari versus Brahim Diaz, I think Saibari is far clear, even though he doesn't have scouting bonus. He just seems like much more of a goal threat anyways, and this game rewards you for goals more so than assists. Medina, I can't say is guaranteed to start, but he is... he seems fine, and he's not injured. Who is Towel Thieves? I'm confused. The thing is, I just simply can't afford, like, having Saibari in my team, and I don't have the opportunity, for example, to go Hakimi. So it's not even like coverage in fantasy, like, doesn't even make sense as a concept to me, because in reality, you're just trying to pick as many good players as possible who will do well. Coverage is kind of almost like saying you want to do extremely average because you want to have kind of to dip your feet in different locations, like, if that makes sense. At the end of the day, you can always pick 15 players that will not have a single Moroccan player and still do really well. You can probably also pick 3 Moroccan players like Saibari, Hakimi, and maybe even another defender and do exceptionally well. What I'm trying to suggest is that you don't need to dip your foot into every kind of pond to actually be able to get fantasy points. You can still get a lot of points without actually having to, go everywhere. Like, for example, last match day, I don't have Kane, but I have Oyarzabal, and that's it. And from that alone, I have a different structure to other people, but I can do well. Elise 12-man or Hakimi? I would probably go Elise 12-man for sure. In terms of must-have / top priorities, where would I put Hakimi? The problem with Hakimi, I guess, is it's the next week matchup, right? So, he's going to be on paper against France. So that makes it a lot more difficult to say that he's essential. as far as, sorry, like I think, did you, okay, I can see your DM Mal in terms of your team. I mean, the way that I see your team is if you use Kane and or slash Yamal or Pulisic as your make weights, you can probably improve your defenders, but I'd probably just go straight. I would just go heavily into France first. Like I would go. I don't think I would prioritize Sakimi basically in your situation. I would prioritize getting. Maybe I would even go Barcola over Dembele because you have the opportunity to do that, and that still saves you money. So if you can go something like Pulisic to Dembele, maybe use Kane as a cash cow. That's up to you and whether you want to do so. And then you've got 2 free transfers where I'd probably use those 2 free transfers on. For sure, I would use one on Johnston. I don't think I would necessarily change my goalkeeper because I think Dibu Martinez is the kind of safety net for you. So I would probably, I guess to be fair, if you did go Barcola and you did cut down on Kane, you arguably could go Hakimi. So you could go Hakimi plus Luka Dean, for example. So that is, for me, that's probably how I would approach your team. Would I use max cap in semis or final? To be honest, I'm just gonna wait for the fixtures to kind of, be there. So, this Hal guy fell from the sky for my team because you need the 3.5 million. That's pretty awesome. Would you use max cap? Sorry, but going back to that question, Nisha, I think I'm just gonna wait for the games. But I mean, on paper, I think what we need to actually see is how the brackets unfold, right? So if let's say Spain and France is the semifinal, then you probably want to use max cap there because you don't even know who's going to win from there. And then the other side, like, could have a lopsided matchup, but it could also have a really close game. It's hard to call. Like, for example, if Colombia and England end up getting towards the other semifinal as well, I think that's also a very, very tough game. Because you're starting to also see that I feel like a lot of the Colombian games in America are basically looking like home games for Colombia. So I think that's an added factor to make Colombia look a little bit stronger this tournament as well as they progress. But if suddenly, for example, like, I don't know, we have quite a lopsided finals matchup and it looks like we could have that, like, for whatever reason, I don't know. Let's say Mexico go deep, but, we know the matches won't be in Mexico after certain stages, right? So if Mexico go deep and then you've got like France on one side of the final on paper, and you'd probably feel a little bit more inclined to saving it for this and just using it in the semifinal potentially, right? But it's hard to say. I don't know. Like we'll just need to see how the matchups unfold a bit more. Portugal will win. I hope not. Farbor Melker says, who to tell to finalises, Kane, Yamal, Vinny. I would probably, I don't want to bias you, but I personally think I would, I wouldn't touch Vinny, even though Vinny actually probably has a reasonably good chance of getting knocked out as well. I think that the player that I probably would sell is, I probably would sell Kane, to be honest. It is difficult though, and a tight call for sure. I mean, just looking at the odds alone, I mean, Kane at the end of the day is a forward, right? So you do get less points in terms of like the goals. Obviously, he's been scoring at a prolific rate, but yeah, I mean, Yamal still has BCCs, clean sheet odds, additional point for a goal, and it's still the penalty taker for Spain. I don't think his minutes are perfect. Like, he could still get subbed at 80 minutes again, whereas Kane is going to play like 90 plus extra time. So that's something to factor in as well, but I'd probably sell Kane. You took Vinny out? I think it's fine. A lot of people are making compromises. I think my team, because I went Orsaba last match day, I guess I never felt like I needed Kane in my team, so I don't know. We'll see how it goes. Everyone ends up using the chip in the final. I mean, you could still use it in the semifinals. You think you're leaning towards selling Kane? I think that makes sense. I think I ended up, leaning towards there as well. But thank you so much for the super chat, my friend. We get 4 free transfers next week anyways. Why so worried about Hakimi's next fixture? But, I mean, you can get so many other players getting knocked out, so, like, why would you spend additional money on Hakimi at 6 mil when you don't have, like, that sort of insurance clause? for the next round as well. Because you probably wouldn't, like, you'd probably want to replace, like, let's say if Hakimi advanced, right? You'd probably still want to replace him anyway, so that's one free transfer potentially versus France. And then, like, I still have right now USA players that will probably get knocked out, or maybe even if they advance, like, I don't really care about them, right? So I'd want to replace them next round. So that's like two free transfers that I need to save up. There could be an upset, like Spain could obviously get knocked out, and suddenly I've got 3 free transfers to make again. So yeah, I mean, Vinny could get knocked out as well, and that's 1 free transfer there. I mean, out of the teams that are, let's say if we live in a fortunate world where France and Argentina advance again, which should be quite likely, right? If you think about it, it's basically like there's I would say a 72% chance of that happening. So the upset shouldn't be likely. But say you keep all these players in your team, Vinny and the Spanish players and the USA players that I have in my team, like, and not even including some of the Colombians, like those all have those are all potential transfers out. So the more you kind of pile into transfers for players who don't have a great fixture for next week, then it does make setting up your tournament strategy a bit worse. Thoughts on Bruno G to Saibari for a hit? I would keep Bruno G. I think he's had an excellent tournament. I know Saibari is one of the best picks that we have left, but fortunately he doesn't have scouting bonus, right? So I wouldn't feel too aggrieved about not having him. I still think Bruno G is fantastic. And you'd probably feel better about owning Bruno G next match day as well. So once again, like, those kind of considerations will be there. Why is Dean so strongly favored over Hernandez? I get he's likely starting this game, but seems to be rotating between starting and not playing a minute. I mean, I think tournament football, that the main thing is a lot of the managers kind of spend time on sort of identifying the player that they want in the fullback position, and there are certain fullbacks that they're not sure of, right? So, for example, like Koundé on the right and Cucurella on the left for Spain are like absolutely locked into their teams. So there's not much need for rotation. But for someone like Dean and Teo and even, let's say, Porro and Llorente, I guess the coaches may be unsure about that player, but then you make that decision in the knockout rounds with who you feel more comfortable with after evaluating them from, you know, the group stage games and things like that. So if he ultimately decided on just going with Dean after giving Teo that sort of game versus Norway as well, then there's probably a good reason for that. And it's not like Dean or Porro, for example, dropped poor performances. You know, we probably at this point expect them to continue starting. So then, of course, you just feel that, like, just rotation just happens much less when you go into the knockout stages of a tournament. Mel, apart from the Spaniards, team looks good. You know the Spaniards are good in the team, Mel. And if you don't know that, well, then you're just a bad fantasy manager, my friend. What do you think of my team? Messi, Oyarzabal, Mbappe, Olise, Dembele, Barcola, Saibari, Vinny Mazraoui, Diop, Cucurella, Molina, Munoz, I mean, that literally sounds better than my team. That's an incredible team. Clyde, thank you so much for the super chat. Which combo? Munoz, Bellingham, and Quinones, or Mojica, Trossard, and Oyarzabal? Honestly, I would probably actually go Mojica, Trossard, and Oyarzabal. Just because I think Oyarzabal's probably better than Bellingham as a pick for this match day. And then I do think Trossard has scout bonus, which is really nice. And I think still pairs up a little. Oh, actually, Trossard has lost scout bonus though, right? Sorry. I need to take that back. Okay, yeah, Trossard has lost scout bonus. Maybe I would actually say Munoz, Bellingham, Quinones. I think it's fairly close. Equally with Mojica, I think you could maybe even go to Hal and then you can upgrade Trossard as well, right? To someone else in the midfield, and maybe that would kind of satisfy you. What's the chip strategy? Clean sheet shield for next week. Selling Bellingham, Kane for Dembele or Sabal. I hope I'm wrong about England, just don't see it. I think that's fair enough. I mean, once again, as I said, the odds aren't super favorable towards England anyways. I can understand the pessimism, basically. Hal and Trossard or Bayana Mojica? I'd probably go Hal and Trossard. And Trossard without scout bonuses. I think Hal is better for this match day. I think Hal is better than Mojica if I was going to give advice, generally speaking. But I probably prefer Bayana to Trossard at this moment in time, even though Trossard has been much more prolific. Any news on Medina's injury? I think it was actually ended up being cramp. Is the semifinal qualification booster effectively a guaranteed plus 22 points because all 4 teams progress? No, I don't think that's going to be the case at all. But I don't know. I mean, you ask a really good question, though. I mean, they do advance to the next round. It's true. I mean, maybe you're right. Yeah. One of the things you guys need to think about, though, is we might not even have... Say there's an upset this stage, right? And there's probably going to be an upset in the quarterfinal as well. You could actually not have enough players regardless by the semifinals. Like, you might actually have to prioritize trying to reduce the amount of hits you have. Like, it's very plausible that because we only have 4 transfers for the next match day, you could have 2 reasonably sized upsets. Like, for example, in my team's case, I guess Spain, Colombia, and Brazil could get knocked out, and then I'd be in big trouble, right? Or, sorry, let's just do what's more likely to happen anyways, which is like USA, Colombia, and... I think Spain and Brazil have like similar progression odds, but let's just say Spain because it would hurt my team more. So technically I would have 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, I would have 7 players out of my team. You know, I can't fix that for the quarterfinals, and I certainly can't fix that for the semifinals either. Assuming that there's probably also going to be another matchup in the quarterfinals that doesn't really go my way via the transfers that I've made. So yeah. Like, it's very plausible you could, I guess, end up in the semifinal and not have... Maybe not having 11 players is, like, a bit ridiculous. But, yeah. That is crazy, though. I didn't actually think about that as a potential loophole. Maybe, yeah, you could test it out. It's hard to say. I feel like intuitively they would have probably set it up so that only the finalists get the qualification booster chip. Send my team in YouTube chat. Want Due to Due how to fund. Let me just have a look at your team. So you said Halhal plus Elise plus Mojica selling Munoz, or 2 Hakimi, Saibario, Elise selling Yamal. In both selling O'Reilly and Due. Also how to use the last transfer. I would probably go with option number 1. The last transfer. I guess you could upgrade. Can you upgrade Vargas in that situation? Like maybe just go for like a French midfielder or an Argentine midfielder. Abdul Malik, thank you so much for the super chat. Life on the line, minus free transfer. Bellingham / Bruno to Luis Diaz, Saibari, Brahim Baena. I probably would go Bruno to Saibari personally, if you asked me this question. We use Joker or no? What do you mean by Joker? Like the wild card? I would save the wild card for next round. So I think Dean is nailed for next week. I mean, at this point, he would be starting 2 games in a row. So it really just depends on his performance, right? Am I running the clean sheet boost? I'm doing it next week. You've got 0.1 or so. But what do you mean? Like, you've got 1 free transfer, right? So can't you replace Vargas with someone else? Like a cheap center mid? If you really wanted to, like, kind of go away from Vargas. Would you go for Kane or Barcola, 12 man? I would probably go Barcola. You've got 4 million. Do I need a good CB? You could just go for the Moroccan starter and Halhal, 3.5 mil. What chip would you recommend this week? Probably none, to be honest. I'm kind of leaning towards there. Yeah, I can have a look at DMs. Option A. Kane, Sabari, Trossard, Pulisic, Halhal, and Dean. Kind of like option B, personally. Right, 9030241. Thank you so much for the super chat. Hakimi plus Baena or Saibari plus Kukurea? Ooh, tough one. I'd probably go Saibari plus Kukurea. Because I still think you get the Moroccan attacking threat that you probably would have wanted. And then I still think Kukurea is probably like, I would feel better about having Saibari next match day than Hakimi, I guess, and I'd probably feel better about owning Kukurea than Baena next match day. Obviously, I'm on a different structure, but I'd look forward to hopefully buying more Spanish players if we do advance. FYI for anyone buying a goalkeeper, looks like Vargas is losing scouting bonus. Yeah, but like, what can you do at this point, right? Part of the appeal towards Vargas is that he's a cheap goalkeeper and that he actually has good odds of getting a clean sheet out of all the cheap goalkeepers compared to, like, for example, let's say Crepeau, who I think has also lost it, right? Like Crepeau's actually being sold, but I guess it's like, he is against Morocco. Like, if Canada don't concede to Morocco, then you know what? Then I don't understand football, I guess. Hey, Fran, can you review my transfers if possible? Out Yamal, Doué, Johnson, O'Reilly, in Elise, Baena, Hakimi, Dean. Yeah, definitely okay with those transfers. Those are amazing. For anyone with buying a goalkeeper, Vargas looks like, yeah, okay, sorry, I literally reread that. As far as Baena minutes, I'd probably say like it's kind of variable. It really depends on whether he plays well within the physical match. Like, I think he could play 60 to 80 minutes, so I would probably say an average of 70 seems like a fair case. What to do with Llorente? I'd probably sell him towards like Luka Dean or something like that. When are you thinking of playing Max Captain? Near the semifinal final. Dean starting. I expect Dean to start, but it's not been fully confirmed by any sources. But all the French kind of newspapers have suggested that they have Dean in the starting lineups. All right, so now that we're actually at a stage for people who are actually kind of interested in making the most out of, let's say, the rest of this tournament, we're actually going to showcase the fantasy tool, which we kind of also debuted a little bit in Matchday 1. So we're working in collaboration with them. They've got expected points for even Matchday 5 for anyone who's actually curious. Let me just calibrate this a bit better. Maybe we could afford to zoom in a bit. Right, perfect. So this is the fantasy tool. You can find the link in the description below, but this is effectively one of the better fantasy models that I've seen so far within this tournament, as far as if you're shopping for options and you actually are looking for options to go for. This website also updates all the time very, very quickly. This is their kind of scout tool for Matchday 5. So I'm currently scrolling at, let me just show you the full length of the page. So you can kind of see I'm in round 5 of the tournament right now, and we're kind of shopping for options potentially for people, right? So if we go position by position in terms of like hidden gems and stuff like that, if we go towards the defense, as you can see, very, very interesting in terms of how high the projected points are for certain players. And if I add the scout bonus in, you can also get a feeling for how strong some of these picks are. So for example, with, let's say, Tagliafico, of course, his projected minutes have not been kind of tailored because I think they're probably uncertain about the Medina thing. But generally speaking, the model is basically showing an Argentina defender is probably still your best bet to get projected points. France falling quite close behind as well, and then you've also got Luka Dean here as well, who, despite only sort of being projected to have 70 minutes in this kind of projection here, actually has 5.1 projected points. So I think he's one of those players where, as long as you think Luka Dean's actually going to start, the probability of his minutes being higher than 70 is definitely, like, within the sort of 90% range, unless he drops a stinker. So he's more likely to play, for example, like close to 80 minutes. And I think he could actually end up being one of the better sort of defenders in this match day. As you can see, Riyadh was actually projected to start, but of course the minutes are wrong here. So you can see, anyways, the base case for, let's say, a Moroccan defender. So Al Hal for this match day, for example, is definitely one of the leading defending picks to go with once again, just because you get scouting bonus, right, which kind of sends them towards the level of, let's say, some of the leading Spanish defenders for this match day. So very, very good options there in terms of if you want to kind of see the value of certain players. The website that I'm using is the fantasytool.com. So you can find it in the link in the description. It's the first link over there. But yeah, pretty interesting in terms of how that kind of shapes up defensive transfers for people. So with me, for example, Mojica, I clearly picked someone who has worse expected points this match day compared to, let's say, a Moroccan defender. But I do think also when you kind of flip the table towards next week, it's also going to be likely much worse in the opposite direction. So we'll see how that goes for myself. It's a free tool, but I think there's also paid features as well, just for anyone to know. As far as the midfield, if we're kind of shopping for options over here, Enzo's extremely, extremely high. Now, I'm a little bit cautious about these numbers because like I don't think Enzo's played in an extremely attacking role, but you can't sort of deny, like, he still has scouting bonus. He is still versus an Egyptian team that haven't looked particularly great in this tournament. Not that Argentina looked great, by the way, versus Cape Verde last night. Let's just say that, put it out there. But the mixture of projected clean sheets, scouting bonus, and all that stuff makes him very, very good. Elise is the top option now, so that's actually quite an interesting change in terms of what I was saying earlier, where if you look at like bookies or odds and stuff like that, because Dembele and Elise kind of keep one-upping each other in some of the matches, you've seen the kind of odds and even models kind of quite heavily react to the strength of these players. Part of the appeal to Elise as well is I think he simply plays more minutes than Dembele. So it's interesting that there's only a 4-minute gap here, but Elise already has higher projected numbers. So I do think Elise is if there was one player who's an essential transfer, I do think it's Elise. So you have an opportunity to kind of get into Elise as well, because I think he does probably play on average 5 to 10 minutes more than Dembele. But DePaul here, once again, we're talking about options with scouting bonus. He's a very solid pick, right? Once again, if you want to go quadruple Argentina, let's say you don't have any additional transfers to make, you can save a little bit of money and not go for someone like Barcola and maybe go for DePaul, and then you can go for Luka Dean in the midfield, and that probably still gives you at least 1 million back compared to, let's say, if you're going to do Barcola plus, I don't know, let's say another one of the Argentina players. So very, very interesting option there. As far as, let's say, Vinny Jr. is still very high, but just to kind of reiterate, Yamal still with really good projections for this week too. I think the thing that I find interesting in terms of the projections is that, yeah, Yamal is a little bit low, but at the end of the day, he's still, generally speaking, better than most of the options within the game. And once again, Spain have a better projected matchup on paper for the next round. So the advantage of like not selling Yamal, I think, is that on the next match day, Yamal will be one of the leading options if he does progress. So that is one of the advantages of actually going for Yamal in that case. But still, Colombian sort of midfielder options are still very, very strong. I'd probably be more pessimistic on James' minutes. He literally only played 45 minutes last night. As far as, let's say, other scouting bonus options, like Tillman's up there, which we've featured a lot. Saibari's gone down a bit, but to be honest, I'm still super high on Saibari. I wouldn't be too worried about going for Saibari, but it just shows you as well that when you add scouting bonus into the game, a lot of inferior looking options on paper do kind of supersede some of the scouting bonus, or sorry, the non-scouting bonus options. Pulisic, as you can see, has dropped, but he's also got scouting bonus again. So that could be a pretty big advantage for people who've actually kept him. So maybe I will live to regret selling Pulisic, but I think for me, I kind of needed to just do that anyways to get Olise into my squad. That's kind of it for the midfielders for now. I think Barcola, you can see if his minutes go higher as well, he would go higher as a pick too. But yeah, some interesting options here in the midfield. But generally as well, I think I'd also be quite interested in someone like a Rabiot as well. For the forward position, as far as differentials, I'm going to shop over here. You've got Pepe, you've got Quinones as well. So those are the options. Even Luis Suarez as well. Luis Suarez, I think the main advantage for him is that we had an injury to Cordoba within the Ghana game for Colombia. And so you do have an opportunity to kind of look at Luis Suarez as a really good sort of forward transfer in. I think at 60 minutes, I'm kind of shocked that he's like one of the leading projected picks, but maybe it's because the projected minutes are looking at multiple rounds at a time, whereas maybe for this game week alone, they're probably projecting that his minutes will be super high as Colombia maybe find additional players to kind of play in that center forward position over future matches. But just a little bit of sort of a showcase of a very, very useful tool. You can even actually kind of select to go 2 game weeks at a time. So in this drop down button here, I can go a little bit deeper, and it kind of factors in like what would happen if your players were to go a little bit deeper into the tournament. So if I go for the midfielders, for example, once again, kind of like what we were saying here, Yamal would kind of shoot up a little bit as well, just because Spain's next game on paper is quite nice. But generally speaking, because Argentina and France have such a smooth run, a lot of their players are just going to be highest on projected points across like all bases, right? But we were talking about Cucurella versus Hakimi as well. So for Hakimi on a 1 week basis is definitely better than Cucurella this week. But if we kind of looking at a 2 game week basis, if the players do advance, Cucurella is ultimately going to kind of net you more expected points. So that seems pretty nice. I agree. Suarez's minutes seem pretty secure at this moment in time. I do think that the one thing it's not a form of criticism really with the Colombian team, but they did really sort of just kind of park the bus. And still, like, kind of when Quintero came onto the pitch, then I think they looked a little bit better, but they did kind of park the bus, when they got to that stage in the game. So I think I do find the Suarez numbers to be a little bit high, but interesting. Can you do a quick section explaining pros and cons of clean sheet shield? Yeah, we can kind of discuss that, right? So let's just kind of walk through conceptually what I'm thinking about with a clean sheet shield. So with the clean sheet shield, and by the way, once again, this is the fantasytool.com, so you can find it in the link in the description below. Very, very, very good model that has been sort of live all tournament long and will continue to be live for the tournament. It also updates, I think, the player ownerships like as soon as possible, every 15 minutes. So yeah, have a look at that. But for the clean sheet shield, something I wanted to show for this match day is, and I'm going to flick back to my team now, which we'll kind of tinker in a moment, but with the clean sheet shield, the key thing is this is basically, you should visualize it from a data perspective as being the chances of being able to get, let's say, or only conceding 0 to 1 goals, right? So what I've done basically based on the kind of odds that we have in the bookies is just to kind of recalculate that as if, what's the probability of France only conceding 0 or 1 goals? Same with Argentina, same with Morocco, etc. As you can see, because France and Argentina and Morocco have such good games on paper from a clean sheet perspective, that chance of actually securing the clean sheet points is extremely high on a match day like this. So it feels like if you were kind of like a bit of a coin flipper, that next week we're probably going to have a lot more matchups that are kind of like in that Spain-Portugal range, where for Spain to get a clean sheet or for Portugal to get a clean sheet using the clean sheet shield, that's more of a 50 to 70% chance. And so when, for example, let's say if Argentina were to advance versus Switzerland or Argentina were to advance versus Colombia, it's very likely that matchup is going to create much less clean sheet odds for Argentina. So instead of having 87% versus Egypt, you're probably going to have Argentina getting clean sheet shield odds of, let's say, like, I don't know, 70%, for example. But I think if you think about the opportunity cost of the clean sheet shield, I guess if you think you're going to get clean sheets anyways, right? Because the clean sheet odds are very high for Argentina and France. They're already over 50%. I think it's 55 for Argentina, 60% for France. Technically, I guess if most of your defense are from those two teams, you probably don't feel too in the need of getting the clean sheet shield. But for a lot of teams, you're gaining maybe like a 40% chance of getting a clean sheet, right? As opposed to, let's say, gaining, for the France perspective, a 30% chance. So, for example, France have a 60% chance to get a clean sheet versus Paraguay. But if you were to look at the chance for France to concede 1 goal or 0, it's 90%. So that's a 30% clean sheet bonus. But if you think about from the, for example, from the, let's say the Spanish perspective, you're gaining around 35, 36% chance, right? So that kind of goes up in terms of the net exchange of the clean sheet shield versus regular clean sheet points as you have tougher fixtures. The easier a fixture is, the less advantageous, I guess, the clean sheet shield is. But at the flip side, obviously you could just deal with situations where your teams just concede 2 goals and therefore the shield doesn't work, just like Argentina did versus last night, Cape Verde, right? So just a little bit of thought in terms of why I'm kind of being a little bit more greedy with the clean sheet shield and kind of saving for next match day. As far as my team, though, we're going to quickly recalibrate this and fix that up. But yeah, does that kind of generally make sense in terms of people who are looking at employing that kind of booster there? All right, so back to chat questions, which I know I've ignored for a bit, but I just wanted to show the fantasytool.com. And I wanted to show why I'm planning to use a clean sheet shield for next week. So if we go through super chats first, Ajay, thank you so much for the message. So you mentioned you posted your team in Discord. Could I review it? Absolutely, I can. So let's have a look at that now. Have you put that in rate my team? Oh, I can see the message now. Perfect, thanks. So your transfers were Yamal, Due Johnson, O'Reilly out for Bayana, Olise, Dean, Hakimi in. Okay. Yeah, I think those transfers just make a lot of sense. Once again, just going back to the idea that Olise does feel pretty essential. And for most people, either you were transferring out Kane or you were transferring out Yamal. I can understand why you've done that this way around. I like the team. Hakimi's going to be a huge addition to the squad. So best of luck with Hakimi. He's probably the player that I'm scared of. But at the end of the day, you know, I can't get there, and it is what it is. So yeah, hope that works out for you. But I think it's a wonderful team. There's basically no gaps in the squad, so it's a solid team. Protagonist, can I have a look at your squad? Certainly I can. So Doctor said, can you do a video for a wildcard draft? Oh gosh. Okay. I'm gonna actually create. Actually, someone's asked me a question in terms of the private chat in terms of can I build a wild card. So I'm actually thinking that on the wild card now, I'd probably have Mike Nunn on the wild card, just because the clean sheet's kind of free. He's also relatively cheap. I'd still have Molina, Lissandro Martinez. I'd probably have Kukurea. I'd probably have Hal just because of this match day to save yourself some money. In the midfield, I'd probably go DePaul, Olise, Dembele. I'd probably stretch towards Yamal if I could. And we might still need in the scouting option, but I'd probably go at Messi, Mbappe, and then a scout bonus option as well. So it could be Oyarzabal. It could also just be... I think it'd probably be... I would probably still go actually Messi, Mbappe, or Oyarzabal if I had the wild card. Because I think like Oyarzabal still has a really good chance to kind of progress compared to, let's say, a Quinones or Jimenez or even a Pepe, right? Especially with Pepe, you know, he's a future transfer regardless anyways. With the Oyarzabal, you could get like a double whammy if they progress versus Portugal. So that for me is like the advantage of that. Protagonist, you said you want to make 2 additional free transfers. I would probably actually sell Dest to Dean if you wanted to. That seems like a really strong transfer there. As far as another transfer to make, I'm not really sure if there is one necessarily for yourself. once you go Dean, you actually don't have too much money left. Like you could, I guess, replace Trossard, but Trossard seems to be one of your transfers in. I'd probably pass on Trossard. I'd probably go for an Argentine CM there. Are you using CS Shield this week? Yeah, I am saving it for the quarterfinals as well, Kim. Yep. All right, back to chat. Sorry, in terms of stream chat. Am I activating Clean Sheet Shield? I'm not. Did I confirm my transfers? Yes, I did. Please don't use full caps. I do kind of need moderators as well in terms of live stream chat. So if anyone's interested in moderating, do let me know. Generally, I think not using caps is ideal here. Are you 100% on Spain? Of course, I'm not 100% on Spain because it's not 100% likely to happen, right? But it's still relatively likely to happen. Fran, please answer. Need your help. Dean plus Bayana or Mazraoui plus Saibari. I probably would go. I probably actually would just go Dean plus Bayana. Is Issa Diop a decent, cheaper option for Hakimi? Yes, he is. But I probably also would go Hal. Why is everyone selling Kane? Surely if England score, he bags a hole. I mean, at the end of the day, everyone's just selling premium options regardless, right? Like, I think Yamal's still going to be able to do well. No squad shown, just team. Oh, sorry about that. Do I need to zoom out a bit? Probably do. Is that fine for you guys? Fran, final question. I have Pulisic, him, Bayern, or Trossard. I think I would keep Pulisic at this point, especially if he has the scouting bonus. You think Mexico will win? I mean, once again, I can show you the progression odds, but we have some very close games in this kind of set of ties in the round of 16, right? So England and USA, those games are like closer to 50-50s than any of the other games. And then Spain and Brazil are marginally favored versus some of the other countries. And then, your classic France and Argentina, which we are obviously saying are the teams to invest in to have the best chances. Argentina more so because of fixtures, France more so because they're scary. Any chance of you activating Clean Sheet Shield this game week? No. I don't think the Dean start's going to be confirmed, so that's, we're just going to have to deal with that. Would you take a hit to get Saibari, Hakimi, and Dean in? I would not. I mean, like what, to take hits for all of them or just to take one hit? Fran, please answer. Need your help. Whom to pick on 12-man booster, Kane or Sabal? I mean, could you not go, for example, a fifth French player like Barcola, for example, on clean sheet booster or the booster? I would probably still pick Kane over Sabal if you really wanted to. Medina was only cramp. Yep, I agree. I'm not stacking the Moroccan players, but that's only because I'm trying to plan for next match day as well, right? The Moroccan players probably won't serve me too well for the next match day. What do you think about the rumors of Dembele not starting? I think it's relatively unlikely. I mean, I think if Dembele was actually not going to start, I feel like it would have been reported already in the press, no? I can't see really any. I'm trying to check for news on Dembele, but I mean, it doesn't seem like anything authoritative really even suggests that Dembele would be benched. I find it rather unlikely, to be honest. Yeah, I can't really see anything. Faisal, thank you so much for the super chat. Goalkeeper Crepo Dibu, nice. Defender Dest, Hakimi, Dean, Lissandro Robinson. Mid, Elise Dembele, Vinny, Saibari. Is that Saibari? Hopefully. Pulisic. Attack Mbappe, Messi, Cunha. Who should I use my 12 chip on? Kane, Barcola, Diaz, Yamal. I would personally use it on Yamal, but I think Barcola's up there as well. You seem to really feel confident in a triple up attack in Spain against tough opposition and low projected goals. I mean, how are the Spain projected goals low? I'm kind of confused about that question. It's not only just this match day that you're planning for, right? So if Spain advance, they end up playing a much easier game. They basically face the winner of USA Belgium. So if you go for, let's say, a Moroccan attacker, that Moroccan attacker, even if they advance, will face versus the French defense next round. If you have a Spanish attacker and they advance, they will face off versus either the USA or Belgium defense next round. And I don't think I'd be too worried about having Spanish attackers versus that. Second of all, Spain have really high projected goals anyways versus Portugal. And I don't think Portugal have been really impressive in this tournament regardless. Like, if you watch the Croatia game, and Croatia, I don't think have been a really impressive team in this tournament whatsoever. They were able to muster up a lot of chances versus the Portuguese defense as well. So I don't think there's much to really suggest that backing Spain is like a bad idea. Morocco actually have less projected goals than Spain. So once again, it's if you go for Spanish picks, you might have less of a chance of progressing than Morocco. But I think the upside is much higher for next round when you're going to face off versus the winner of USA versus Belgium. And the projected goals will be much higher compared to the Morocco goals will drop. With Brazil, I think the projected goals being 1.78, which is higher than Spain, is nice. But once again, there's no Brazilian midfielders outside of Vini, other than Bruno G. But I'm not going to go to Bruno G when he doesn't have scout bonus anymore and is a little bit more expensive than Baena in my case, where I can't really afford him. So I don't think there's anything really wrong with backing Spain. It's quite logical, actually, from a perspective of if you want to kind of prolong how strong your team is for the rest of the tournament. But yeah, Faisal, I think I would probably approach. I think Barcola is probably the pick that I still prefer. Then I'd say Yamal. Then I'd say Kane. Then I'd say like Diaz, I guess, if you mean Brahim, or Lucho. Other super chats as well. Thank you, Charlie, for the super chat. Sell Haaland for Oyarzabal to enable Lise. Yeah, I would do that. I don't think it's like I don't think necessarily Haaland to Oyarzabal is an upgrade, but it's just Elise is just huge. How confident am I that Dean will start? Probably 80%. I mean, I have him literally in my team, right? You'll have 4 free transfers for the next match day, though. Once again, I mean, how many players can get knocked out of the next match day? Pretending like you're going to anticipate. For example, like last match day, we had like 70%, 75% games like, you know, Germany with a chance to progress getting knocked out versus Paraguay. We could still have that here. And another problem is that the Moroccan sort of USA players are very, very cheap. So if you were to restructure your team, you'd still need to take a cash cow out of the squad, right? So if you, let's say, went for Saibari, if you went for the USA picks, say they actually, I'm not thinking Morocco are going to get knocked out. That's not what I'm suggesting. But say you have the Moroccan picks versus France, and say you have all these USA picks or even Colombian picks you need to get rid of. You still need to ultimately get rid of one of the premiums anyways. And 4 free transfers is probably not enough to afford that. So planning as if you were just going to target, once again, Morocco, who have the same expected goals as Spain, doesn't seem that ideal to me when you can plan better for two rounds on paper. Can you put the projected goal sheet? Yeah, we can absolutely do that. Can absolutely do that. So let's just take the progression sheet out. This is projected goals. So yeah, France ahead top, so which is why I would recommend anyone to go like quadruple up on France as soon as possible, just because France have better clean sheet odds, better goals than Argentina anyways. And Argentina does seem like very, very sort of Messi oriented, so it's not like when you're buying into, let's say, an Argentine center mid, you're expecting too much other than, you know, potentially an assist like DePaul could get or like McAllister could get on any match day. So just something to kind of mention there. And then Brazil kind of like sub top, and then Spain, Morocco, USA in descending order, right? So what I'm trying to suggest basically is, why would you really want to invest into teams that aren't like Spain is actually at a very kind of comfortable price point with a decent chance of progression. such that it makes a lot of sense to actually go towards some of the Spanish picks. For example, if you were to, let's say, downgrade to, let's say, let's say for someone who's going to another USA pick, like let's say Pepe, well, then that's another additional transfer. That's another much tougher fixture on paper in the next round. If you were to go for a Moroccan pick once again, probably maybe better still than some of the Spanish picks, because you could get scout bonus, could be cheaper arguably, right? For example, like I still think Saibari is better than Baena in isolation, but it's just over the next 2 match days, I probably could just get better value from Spain. So I don't think people have felt it so obviously this round because we had so many favored games. But you are literally moving from the round of 32 progression was basically teams littered with 70% chance to progress. So if I kind of look at this, right, in terms of progression, last week for all the progression odds, we basically had I'm showing the wrong graphic here. We basically had teams within the 70 to even like 90% range of actually progressing. And we lost, for example, the Netherlands, which had a 60% chance to progress. We lost Germany as well, which had a 70-something% chance to progress, probably around 75%. So say you actually start investing into these players, it's just more likely that we will get like enough upsets this round. Like, as I said, a Colombia, a Spain, and a Brazil, like they could all get upset. And suddenly that's 5 to 6 free transfers for myself. But I'd rather still pick players who have the better chance of progressing, and then also a better round in the next round when it comes to like projected goals, projected clean sheets. Wino Hakimi, can't afford him, but a great pick, of course. Will you play clean sheet booster next week? Trossard going to Besiktas from Arsenal, fee 20 mil. That makes a lot of sense. Defender for 4.7 mil, please, with scout bonus. Please, guys, help me. I would just get Hal from... Well, you can get Issa Diop, actually. You can get Issa Diop. You could also just get another Argentine defender. What's my team saying? That's my team. Make a transfer Barcola, I think it makes sense. If you don't have Dembele and you already have Elise, I'd probably go Barcola, to be fair. Douglas Santos or Spence for Hal for funds. I mean, Spence is unlikely to start, so I would just go... I would sell Spence for sure. Thoughts on Llorente and our third midfielder? Personally thinking, I can't really see why Fabian would start because Olmo has kind of been pretty much crucial to the team. I think that Llorente also won't start either, but I think I haven't had a great sensibility for like what De La Fuente has been thinking. Although I think the Olmo start kind of... I think we're going to do the exact same thing as France, which is basically you just put in a great performance versus Austria. Why would you ever rotate again? You're probably going to put the same team forwards, and if they fail, if Porro fails, if Baena fails, and then maybe we sub them off. But I just can't see how they don't play. Tchouameni doesn't start. Yeah, that's expected because Tchouameni has an injury for 4 days. Best 12th man, probably a French attacker, so someone like Barcola. I don't think Llorente starts this round. Will Medina play? I think it's possible because it seems like he's not injured. I mean, you could actually even go De Paul, right, as well in your team. I think just pick whoever you want protagonist. Like all 3 of them are good options. Love the team, jailmate. Thank you, Karen. Nice to see you, my friend. Hope you're doing well. Defender for 4.7 mil, please. As I said, Issa Diop is right there as a scout bonus option. There's still a couple Argentina defenders who are also within scout bonus. Don't get Dean transfer. Most likely he'll be sold by Hernandez. Even for MD5, there's risk. Well, you don't have to do it then. Who your captain for France? Mbappe. Chip strategy, clean sheet shield next week. Also putting you in timeout. I mean, look, with fantasy games, guys, you can make your own transfers as ever. I don't really see why Dean would be a problem. Like if Dean actually played 60 minutes, got a clean sheet versus Paraguay, he's going to give me scouting bonus and he's going to give me 9 points. So why would I ever feel bad about a Dean transfer? I'm sure he's got a risk of not starting the previous match, but in reality, he's in pole position to keep his spot. Just like, for example, Porro for Spain. And the advantage of those 2 points is that if you get, for example, those differential scouting bonus points for the +2, that's basically already covering almost a hit, right? In this game, which is only -3. Any reason to move away from Cucurella? I don't really think so, because once again, if you kind of balance out that Spain have a pretty good matchup next week, if they progress, then I think it's a bad idea to sell Cucurella on that basis. Could you check my other super chat, please? Of course. Sorry about that. Faisal, thank you so much for the super chat once again. Tempted to go Yamal, but I feel the game versus Portugal will still be tight. I agree. Again, I'm worried Kane punishes me as usual. Barcola already having Mbappe, Olise, Dembele is enough share of the pie. I don't think that's... I think it is enough share of the pie, but I don't think it can really hurt, right? Because it's like we've seen what the kind of French attack can do. Like Barcola, for example, once again outscored Dembele in the previous match. Like that can happen. So the way I kind of see it is Kane has probably got a great chance to score 1 goal, but I don't think there's anything that really suggests Yamal is going to be a really bad option. He's still the penalty taker for us. Looking at sort of the kind of bookies odds, I mean, Yamal kind of goal assist is more likely than Kane this week if you care about that kind of stuff. And then to kind of top that all off, of course, Spain, once again, if you factor in next week, is ideal. So I think personally the Yamal Kane thing is actually just 50-50 just based on your sentiment, right? So it's kind of up to what you really want to do. Go with your preference, right? So if you feel scared of Kane, I wouldn't tell you like don't be scared of Kane, just like ignore him. I would just say just keep Kane if you really want to. And that's fine. Like for me last week, I mean I was scared of going against Kane, but ultimately I felt like Oyarzabal was a very strong pick and still feel that way. Thoughts on using cheapest mid as permanent bench? I think that's fine because eventually, as I said, probably after this match day, we're going to have maybe a few too many upsets to deal with, and you might not even have 15 players for next week. So I think people need to consider what's the value of a -3 for a cheap player next week versus what's the advantage of maybe just having 13 players or 14 players and not taking a hit. So I agree. It really just depends on how your team is set up, right? How many upsets you're dealing with, how many issues you're actually going to entertain after the round of 16. Robert TG, sorry, I did miss your super chat. Worth doing Pulisic to Barcola for -3? I don't think so because Pulisic has scouting bonus again, right? So I think that's definitely not worth a -3. Robert TG, I don't know exactly where your fan team is, but I have sent a message about that as well. All right, back to kind of chat messages. No booster. No, I'm not planning a booster this round. We're planning to use the clean sheet shield next week. So a -3 to replace Crepo or not. Other GKs Vargas. I don't think it's really worth the -3, Saya. I mean, who could you really go to anyways at that sort of price point? That's kind of the problem with some of the goalkeepers that we have, right? You could get, I mean, could you get, how much is Bono, for example? Bono's 4.7 mil. If you can afford Bono, maybe, but I still don't think it's really worth it because once again, if you go Bono, you're gonna be faced with the same situation next week, which is basically I've got Bono versus France. Do I use a -3 for Bono? Probably not worth it. So I would just keep your goalkeepers for now. Please, Fran, I need help. I transferred in Riyadh before lineups. Is it worth taking a -3 to take another player at a similar price? I would just go Hal for -3 then, yeah. I think it's fine. It's unfortunate, but I'll probably do it. I think because Pulisic still has scouting bonus, it's probably worth keeping him for people who like, unless you're using Pulisic like myself for a make weight. I'm not saying that it's the best transfer for me, but at the end of the day, like Pulisic is the player that I needed to sell to get me towards Elise, which I think feels essential anyways for myself. So that's what I've done, and that's why I sold Pulisic. But it seems like for people, if you're only thinking about making Pulisic as a transfer out for a -3, like for someone who's a bit of a side grade, I don't think that's worthwhile. Unless, once again, you're using him as a cash cow. What chip am I using? None this week. Is 2 Morocco too much? Not at all. I mean, this is still a great game. You can still get a lot of points this week. And then, of course, you have transfers. But it really just depends on how you want to go for it. If you had to choose a result for USA win, draw, loss, I don't know. Probably an upset. USA win, maybe. But are you saying, like, in full time? I mean, I'd probably still predict maybe a marginal USA win. Tail will start. I mean, we'll see, right? I thought Tail would start last match, and he didn't. Just Barcola. Barcola, to me, is a nice 12th man. I think he's a great transfer as well. Pulisic to Barcola, I think, is probably not worth a -3, though. Try not to spam chat so I can kind of read everyone's messages fairly. Sell De Kuiper, Dest, O'Reilly. Probably De Kuiper, because I think De Kuiper is less attacking than Dest, and then O'Reilly still has better clean sheet odds than both. Bring in Molina or Romero. I would probably bring in Molina because he still has scout bonus, so that's not changed at all. What are my thoughts on Upamecano? Solid pick, but I think I would still gamble on Dean personally. That's what I've done anyways. Why clean sheet booster sheet next week? Because the idea is, I think the fixtures are tougher next week, and so if I use the clean sheet booster next week, I can probably give myself a little bit more chance to get a bit more upside. Whereas this week was still France and Argentina having super favorable games. I'm kind of gambling and hoping that I actually get clean sheets regardless, is basically the way that I'm approaching it. Is funds not an issue? Dembouz or Barcola? I'd probably go Barcola, actually. Just because of the scout bonus. Are you playing Shield? Not this week. Next week. Please help Molina or Mazraoui. I'd go Molina. Dest, De Paul Magnan, or Dibu Martinez, Manzambi, Dean. I'd probably go Dest, De Paul Magnan. Would you do Dest, O'Reilly, Bellingham, Pulisic for Dean, Halhal, Olise, Brahim Diaz? Kind of Fort Saibari. Could get Bayana, though. Yeah, I probably would do those transfers. I think Brahim Diaz is fine with scout bonus. That's kind of why I kept him as a green pick this week. Salah, thank you so much for the super chat. Is Trossard to Barcola worth a -3 or not? Ooh. Man, I think it could be. I think it could be worth a -3. If you feel confident that Barcola is going to start, which, as I said, has been confirmed by Polymarket, then it makes a lot of sense as a pick. You can vice captain in Elise and order your bench like a normal FPL just in case. It doesn't matter because once you make manual substitutions, the vice captaincy doesn't work in this game. Yeah, so like once you, for example, let's say if I manually sub, let's say Mojica, Martinez, Messi, and like any of those players, if I make any sort of manual change, then the vice captaincy doesn't work. Or I think even if I flip my first captaincy, then the vice captaincy just doesn't work. Will the clean sheet bonus thing get doubled if captain? Yes, it does. It does stack with captaincy, and it also does stack with the differential scouting bonus as well. Is Ronaldo a decent gamble to take? I would say definitely not. You've got 6.8 million for one last midfielder. Who should I get? Saibari, Bruno G, Trossard were some of the players that I'm thinking about. Yeah, I think they're all fantastic. I think Brahim Diaz is also a very good option to think about. I think Bayana as well. If you kind of want someone who's got a really high chance to progress to the next round, it's a bit boring, but I think DePaul, McAllister, these types of players could also work out in that sort of 6.8 million sub price point. Best player to take for 12th man. Thank you so much for the super chat, Sagnik Mukherjee. So yeah, I would probably go with I'd probably go with Barcola, probably as one of the picks. If you don't have Yamal, if you're just planning to sell Yamal for Elise or planning to sell Kane for Elise, I think they're up there as well. But yeah. But France is your first game, and there's a World Cast where the difference between Mbappe and Elise makes manual subs not worth. I'm not even sure what you're talking about, though. Like, if you captain Mbappe, then that's it. It's already done, right? Why would the vice matter? Clean sheet booster confirmed not to stack with scouting bonus by FPL Joe. So what? It doesn't stack with the scouting bonus, but it stacks with captaincy. Is that what you're saying? Actually, I must have misread that then. Sorry, that's my bad. Let me have a look. But so this is what Joe said, right? He said, "Oh, I see. It's only 7 points, so you don't keep the I see what you mean. Okay, but it still sacks for captaincy, right? Or am I misreading that? Okay, I see. It doesn't earn scouting bonus, but it does double with captaincy. So I think that is valuable. Okay, thanks, Joe. Sorry about that. That is so strange how that works, though. But fair enough. Should use clean sheet booster for Hakimi captaincy. Yeah, exactly. I mean that's a great sort of reason to go Hakimi captaincy. Actually, are you activating the clean sheet bonus? Not this week. I guess technically I don't have like any aces in the hole in terms of defenders, right? So I think it's totally fine to use the clean sheet booster this week. By the way, guys, there's nothing like particularly wrong with it. It's just that I think if you're a bit of a greedy person like myself, like I kind of think you prefer to do it in tougher matchups in the next week. Assuming maximum captain is used in semis or final, why do you prefer clean sheet shield next week instead of this one? Just because, for example, it'll just be more difficult to actually. It's I just think, like, let's say if you deal with probabilities and you want like a little bit more upside. As I said, the opportunity cost when you have tougher games and having the clean sheet shield work is a lot higher when it comes to the gulf in expected points compared to, let's say, if you had already some really, really good easy fixtures on paper where the clean sheet odds are like 50%, 60%, and you're going to apply the clean sheet shield on top of that. Where when I look at my defense now, I've got 1, 2, 3 players who have clean sheet odds above 50%, and more than likely, regardless, I'm going to end up playing a few midfielders or forward. So I feel like next week when France have tougher games, when Argentina have tougher games, the odds of them keeping a clean sheet, just on the 0 goals alone, is a lot lower. So the clean sheet shield, which will kind of insulate me if they were to only concede 1, will actually stand to kind of provide me a little bit more value. Salah, thank you so much. Sent my team to rate my team. Have done a wild pick. Oh, okay. Let's have a look. All right, so let's have a look at the team. Oh, so you gone Raheem Diaz? Is that or Pepe? Pepe's the pick, right? I think Pepe could be quite nice, to be fair. That's a lovely team, though. I mean, Pepe, Diaz, and is Laporte even on scouting bonus now? All solid picks. So best of luck with you, my friend. And thank you so much for the super chat once again. Hopefully Diaz could get a penalty even, today. All right, we've actually locked in our moves. So congratulations, everyone, to making it to yet another round of FIFA Fantasy. Looking good. Right now we're, I think, rank 9,100. So yeah, hopefully we can kind of do a bit better from here and get into, you know, the top 1K by the end of the tournament. I'm not sure if that's likely, but hopefully that does happen. I'm probably quite reliant on Spain doing well. Shocker. But yeah, I think we have a good chance of doing it. But thank you guys so much for supporting. And it was lovely to have you guys here. Good luck this game week, and I'll see you guys soon for more content. Take care and goodbye. Ooh, 12-man Holland. That's nice. Lautaro Martinez is probably fine to keep. I think they just tend to do subs regardless. And it's not like, for example, Julian Alvarez was that much better. And Nico Gonzalez was certainly not any better when it comes to kind of being a substitution for Almada. Hakimi or Saibari captain? Sorry, I would have gone Hakimi if you used clean sheet booster for sure. But that's it for me for the stream, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. And yeah,